We're now heading over to Lagos, Nigeria, for a focus on tourism opportunities that exist in Nigeria. We know that as part of the government's administrative and investment strategy, sectors like agriculture, mining and tourism have been identified as key growth and investment sectors. Let's get a view now from Danny Kioupouroglou, who is the General Manager at the Eco Hotel and Suites. Danny, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Lerato.
Okay, great stuff. Nigerian authorities, as I say, have identified tourism as a key pillar for their investment drive and growth initiative. Is it going to work?
Tourism is there, and tourism is a very good opportunity for Nigeria to develop a sector that will be vibrant and that will produce a lot of returns. There's opportunity in the business side of tourism. There's also opportunities in the cultural heritage elements of tourism, and also you have the visiting family and friends, people coming back to see their heritage and visit their own people. So yes, there's a great opportunity in tourism if it is tapped correctly.
Now, you mentioned business tourism, and anecdotally, it seems as though a lot of hotel rooms are being filled by investment groups. And certainly when I've been in Nigeria, that's what I've seen. There seems to be the emphasis on the business tourist as opposed to the leisure tourist. Is that your opinion?
That's for sure. That's definite, because the leisure tourism is completely different from business. Business is more imperative. People have to go there, so they have to stay in hotels, they have to eat in restaurants, so they have to go there. The leisure tourist requires some additional things that the business tourist will bypass. For example, the leisure tourist wants cheap hotels. He would like to have security. He would like to have infrastructure that is available. He would like to have content. What are you going to visit? What are you going to see? And all these make leisure tourism a little bit more complicated comparing to business tourism.
So in Nigeria, where you've just said to us that there are great prospects for heritage and culture, what are authorities doing to address this gap?
Authorities, both at the federal level and at the state level, they try to create content to start with. For example, they try to create festivals, they try to create cultural events where people can go and see what Nigeria is all about and see the heritage of Nigeria and the cultural richness of a country that's 150 million people big. But at the same time, the requirement for infrastructure is paramount. You know, the requirement for transportation, for security, and all these elements are what cause, they are the hindrance at the moment for leisure development in Nigeria.
What does infrastructure mean for the investor? Because without those roads, it's an access issue. Energy, for instance, and electricity is a major issue, and that needs to be a huge component of how hotel sites are structured. So in terms of the amount of capex that goes into investing in tourism and what you get as a return on equity, how does it compare?
It is a very significant amount, and we have to think that what is taken for granted and is taken as a given in other places, here we have to provide ourselves. So you have to be electricity sufficient, you have to be water sufficient, you have to have your own security. So all these things add up to an already capital intense industry. They add on top. So what you end up having to do is you have to spend longer times to recover the investment. And that's why I believe that it is paramount for the Nigerian government to create and make available funds through probably a tourism intervention fund or something like that, where hoteliers and people in the tourism industry will be able to tap and access funds that will be reasonably priced, and that they will be able basically to develop the sector better.
All right, now, Danny, people talk about the tourism value chain, and this is the integration, for instance, of airports working well, hotels being available, restaurants and leisure activities being accessible, even the retail space, you know, for people who want to shop and just pick up Nigerian trinkets. All of these things have to work in tandem. From your perspective, is there sufficient synergy?
There is a significant effort that is taking place at the moment. The government is making effort, the local governments, the state governments are making effort to develop the airports. Okay, there's more, people realize that as there's more restaurants, there's more bars, there's more clubs, there's more hotels. All these lead to additional value chain addition. However, it's not easy, as I said, because if you don't have the infrastructure there, this causes problems with the development of the other elements of this value chain. However, we see an effort recently from state governments and from the federal government to improve the airports at least. You have new airports that are opening, new airlines that are operating in this airport. So there is development, there is progress in this sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The international wing at the main airport is looking fairly good. Exchange rate at 154 naira to the dollar. Does this make Nigeria an affordable destination? I mean, considering that a lot of the inputs, a lot of the food is imported?
I wouldn't consider the exchange rate as a significant issue, to be honest with you, because particularly for the business tourist, they make their calculations and they see what is the cost of their investment, the cost of looking for business, and they incorporate it in the overall cost of their investment. So I don't think that the interest rate is a particular concern, to be honest with you, particularly for the tourism industry.